His reviews will get you further than the film will ever go. If you give him just a moment of your time, he'll let you know which movies rock, which movies stink, which movies shouldn't have been released. Say hello to Confused Matthew.
The first time I ever saw Batman Mask of the Phantasm was literally the day after I had narrowly dodged homelessness. True story. I can honestly say that in my entire life I have never been that screwed. I came so close to being out on the street that it was nuts, and even though that would not be my fate, I would be spending the next year of my life sleeping on my ex-girlfriend's couch. I remember not liking this movie at all the first time I saw it, but maybe I was just in a bad mood, and considering my circumstances, I suppose no one could really blame me. But upon viewing it a second time, I really liked it a lot. Although there were a few elements that kept it from greatness for me, and one part of the story that I still had a hard time accepting. The basic plot is this. Another masked vigilante is tracking down and killing mobsters, and the police mistake this person for Batman. Batman then has to figure out who this person is, and must try and stop him, in addition to now being a wanted man. Meanwhile, a woman from Bruce Wayne's past shows up and sends him for a loop. This is the part of the story that becomes the most interesting, as a lot of the story is told in flashbacks. We get to see the genesis of Batman starting from when he was just a guy in a mask. But on a more personal level, we get to see Bruce Wayne before he had really committed to being the Caped Crusader. The leading lady is Andrea Beaumont, who is essentially Bruce Wayne's first true love. Incidentally, she is also the first good leading lady we ever see in a Batman film. I have consistently hated the women that writers have thrown at Batman to give him someone to save, most especially Rachel Dawes, who being blown to smithereens is far too good for. But I like Andrea's character. She's surprisingly three-dimensional for an animated character, and she's also a female character who isn't merely a victim waiting around for a man to save her. She is independent and self-reliant while still retaining her femininity, which is refreshing for a Batman film. The only minor problem I had with this is that I didn't feel like there was much chemistry or sense behind her and Bruce Wayne. They say opposites attract, but these two were total opposites. Bruce is kind of a stiff, whereas Andrea is Little Miss Personality. It never really seemed to me like he would go for someone like Andrea, but the couple is nevertheless good enough to still keep us all interested. So as I said, the Phantasm is going around killing mobsters, but it is later revealed that there is a pattern to the killings. He's targeting specific mobsters in a particular old circle. Unfortunately, it turns out that one of the mobsters in that circle later went on to become the Joker. Whoops. I can't tell you how glad I was to see them work this character into the movie. I am a huge fan of the animated series the movie is based on, and the Joker was always my all-time favorite character. Since the release of The Dark Knight, I am often asked who my favorite Joker of all time is, and the answer is this Joker. Mark Hamill of Star Wars fame infuses him with such personality and menace that he comes to life just as much as any of the live-action Jokers, if not more so. That's not to put down either of the other two performances, but when a cartoon character can compete with Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger, you know you're in the presence of talent. The only downside to this is that the Joker doesn't really add much to the story. This film is essentially about everyone in it except him, and he only really serves as a final roadblock to Batman and to the Phantasm. The other side of the story consists of us watching Bruce Wayne practice and evolve into the Dark Knight, something that we would obviously later see in another Batman film. But what this film offers that the other one doesn't is a glimpse into Bruce Wayne's love life. Throughout all of the flashbacks, he is torn between having a life with Andrea or devoting his life to being Batman. He can't do both, as he doesn't want to put her at risk, but he made a promise to his family after they died that he would protect the city. Now, here's the part that I still have a big problem with, or at least lots and lots of reservations about. The movie tells us that he actually chose Andrea over Batman. He chose to settle down into a life with her rather than protect the city. Right out of the blue, Andrea seemingly changes her mind and disappears without a trace. It's only after she leaves him that Bruce chooses to be Batman. This is a story element that is going to play differently for different people, and I'm not going to say that my reaction should be the official reaction that brings the movie down for everyone. This is simply my take on the matter. What this basically says to us is that everything we knew about Batman was a lie, that his protection of Gotham City hinged not on his caring for the city or the memory of his parents, but on whether or not there was a woman in his life. This realization almost makes me feel dirty. It's like learning that your favorite baseball player was on steroids the whole time. Batman now comes off as kind of a dick. In fact, it now seems that all along it wasn't Batman who was the real hero, but Andrea for leaving him and causing him to become Batman in the first place. I can accept that Bruce Wayne would become Batman because he wanted to make sure what happened to him as a child would never happen to anyone else, but I can't accept that he only chose to be Batman because his first option didn't pan out. I'm willing to overlook this in favor of a good review because the story is told very well, but I still consider it to be a major stumbling block in the film. But for the most part, the movie is very solid. It was actually the first Batman movie I liked before the new franchise was released. There have been so many incarnations of Batman over the years, from comics to comedies to action to dramas, that it's really hard to compare them to each other. But Batman Mask of the Phantasm actually holds its own among some of the live-action films. It's not quite as good as the films in the new franchise, but story-wise, it's leaps and bounds better than the old. Writers seem to have a very difficult time making Batman a love story, and aside from this film, none of them have ever gotten it right. Regardless of the gripe I personally have over its result, Mask of the Phantasm delivers in this area. But beyond that, it works well as a deep origin story as well as a solid action film. Since the new franchise has been released, Mask of the Phantasm had become kind of a forgotten gem for me. I hadn't really thought about it much until it was requested, but this is an entry into the films that I would be proud to add to my collection. The end.